Welcome, friends, to episode 265 of Color of Magic, your magic and gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 265 episodes, still got my main man who hopefully didn't have to deal with the windstorm I did last night. Brian Sonic, how's it going, man?
It is going well. Just qualified for the NCAA Heisman House tournament for college football 25. So.
That's kind of cool, actually. When is the event for that?
I guess the first round is going to be December 1st, and then I guess they'll kind of tell me from. I guess it depends on how many you win from there as to how
All
far
right.
you go.
Well, good luck on that thing, dude, because I'm sure that's going to be some tough competition. Did it tell you how many people qualified?
No, I'm sure
No.
it's going to be probably at least a couple of thousand.
Oh, man, good luck. Yeah, before we get into things in this episode, gotta let you know we are covering a lot in this one. There's some lawsuits, there's some stolen magic products, right? We got possibly new video games, like all kinds of things coming for Magic and D&D to cover in this episode. So strap yourselves in. This is going to be a pretty involved episode. And before we get into all that, be sure to check us out at patreon.com/colorofmagic. And you get a shout out just like James Alvey. So thank you for being a patron, friend. But yeah, let's go ahead and roll into this first story here with Hasbro is being sued and everybody freaked out. But then I dove into it and it's not what people think it is. Right? I think people hear Hasbro's being sued. Oh, it must be something about the games and blah, 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 blah. But not really. This is more of a shareholder thing. And the document looks like apparently they're, or at least alleging, hasn't been proven yet, obviously, but alleging that somewhere on their ledgers over the last, sounds like year, they said they had less inventory and holding than they were claiming, than they actually had. So we don't even know what the spread of the number is or how. Is it an error? Is there some reason they had it on there? Who the hell knows? But it's a class action lawsuit for shareholders, first off. So if you're not even holding any shares of Hasbro, none of this even really matters for you and probably affects you zero, realistically. If you do, you're probably maybe getting up to $100 back, probably, because that's how this stuff tends to work.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like, it's one of those things, like, it sounds like you hear the headline and people are pushing that for stuff, but then you find out, like, oh, it's not really the thing we think it is.
I think we've all probably had 15 class action lawsuits with between, there's so many things, soap, cards, just, my wife's done a couple of them, but I don't think we've ever gotten more than $20, but,
Hell, they have one right now.
Them.
I think it's Kraft Mac and Cheese has one right now for claiming they had like real cheese in it or something, but then it was some chemical mix or whatever, some issue. So now they're having a thing.
And was anybody buying that really thinking there was a whole lot of cheese in it? I know I would.
Oh, there ain't no way you can tell me that's real cheese, but that stuff can sit on the shelf for years at a time. Like,
not any significant amount anyway. And I'm sure there's a legally prescribed amount that you probably listed 2% where you say, yeah, it's cheese-ish.
Let me it's about how crazy. I know this is getting a sidetrack a little bit, but you know how crazy it is in the US for all of our international friends listening? They're like Tic Tacs can technically claim to be sugar-free, even though if you look at the ingredients list, it says sugar as one of the items, because if it's under a certain amount, it technically counts as not having enough to matter. Yeah. So you can literally say sugar-free, even though you list sugar as one of the ingredients.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of crazy. Just it's like if anybody ever had to read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair for your high school reading list, which I know it used to be required, current and climate. I don't know if it still is. Yeah. But back in the day, it used to be pretty much required reading at the high school level.
Yeah, this stuff's crazy. And again, you're right. Like, there's class action lawsuits literally all year, every year, if you're just paying attention.
The mail's over there. If I go through it, there's probably one in there.
Oh, I get at least 2 a year of something I'm really. I mean, there was one last year, I think, with CoM, because like the incognito mode kept more information than people thought it did, or there's always something. The only one I got real money back from is when I got my last car financed. It went through the dealership, but they used Fifth Third Bank. And then it turns out Fifth Third Bank was actually charging black and brown people more money than they were charging their white counterparts.
That'll get you touched up.
Yeah. So I got it was a couple $100. I think it was like $300, $400, even though on the course of the note, it had probably cost me closer to $1,000, but it was some reasonable amount of money back. So it's like the only
And I'm
one. All
sure
the
they've been doing
others.
that for decades, because back in the day, it was legally
Oh, sure.
okay to be probably to the 80s or that you could be that racist and nobody was legally calling you on it.
Yeah, all the others I've gotten have been like, I want to say $50 or less. Most of them in
That
the like
feels
$20
about right.
range.
I think one of
Yeah.
the times Sony got hacked, I think they gave me free credit monitoring for a year for putting your information out there.
Yeah, and to bring it back to the point, people are still going to sit and say, "Yeah, but the Hasbro still shouldn't have done it." Like, yes, I agree. You should have your stuff in order so it is accurate, makes sense, whatever. That's all fine and good. I also understand that this is just dumb crap that big business does on the regular.
Yeah.
So I can't be fired up about it. Like, are they in the wrong? Possibly. Like, we got to get more details, but probably, to be honest. Is it enough that it matters or affects any of us in any way? Not really. Even if they're found to be at fault and they have to pay out, I don't know, $2 million that's distributed among shareholders in dividends or some crap. All right. That's not even going to touch them up on the bottom line.
And lawyers are good at figuring out, exactly how, kind of what neighborhood the liability might be in, to where they'll just say, "Hey, here's a check. Please go away. We don't feel like spending the next 6 months in court over this."
I mean, what's wild? Think about it this way: even if it's up to $10 million, that's not even one Magic product release now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy to be like, it sucks. But then, like, the next Magic product release probably brings in 20 million, 30 million, whatever. So it's just like, whatever. Like,
Right.
that's sadly how we get treated by businesses in the US now. Like, the penalties aren't as big as the actual problem. Same thing with that Fifth Third Bank thing. I'm for sure over the course of 5 years, they made
Oh,
more
yeah.
money taking in that extra income at that 1.5% more, whatever they were charging, and the interest they got off it than they paid back.
That's the kind of stuff they make movies about Denzel Washington, fighting the conspiracy that goes to the highest levels of government about, right? And as you said, they probably
Yeah.
still turned a profit on it.
We saw that with what was the bank? Wells Fargo. They had that issue
Right?
where
Just
they were doing all
randomly
these,
giving people, extra checking accounts.
yeah, just crazy stuff. And the amount of money they made off of that was way more than the penalty they paid back. So it was
You'd
worth
like
the
to think
risk.
a company that did something like that wouldn't get to be a bank anymore, but nah, you see their trucks all over the place
Yep.
still. Saturday Night Live had a great sketch with the scene from, I think, is it the Music Man, where they sing about the Wells Fargo wagon as it coming?
Mm-hmm.
What's it bringing? More extra checking accounts. I didn't want the checking accounts, but you got them.
So yeah, I gotta say, like, Hasbro probably in the wrong here, because most of the
Yeah.
time, if this stuff pops up with big businesses, they probably are. But this isn't one of those things that really affects us as gamers or consumers of the products. Like,
Especially in a case like this, where, as we talked about, Hasbro is having to lean on Wizards of the Coast way more than I'm sure even they thought they were going to at the beginning of this partnership.
yeah, it's like one of those things. I'm not going to get worked up about it. We may visit it again once we have a few more details. I might give an update, but that's probably about it. Like, just putting it in here mostly because it had been some minor news that came up and the people talked about and tried to sensationalize it, but this isn't really a thing. But all right, let's get into the soapbox a little bit here. This is one where I can't even call this a rant as much as just like, let's take a moment to process some things. Because recently it had become known that D&D is going to be included in MagicCons. And this popped up because some creators went to fill out their stuff to get their like creator badges and press badges and stuff. And they asked, "Hey, are you a D&D creator? How often do you consume this stuff?" and whatever. And it wasn't just a typical Magic questions. And then we're find out after the fact that like, oh, they're going to start including more D&D stuff at MagicCons, which is why they were asking, because they want to include some other creators that may be in those spaces. And this shouldn't really come as a surprise, right? Like MagicCons have been continually increasing and more successful. Both Wizards and Reed Pop are getting a better handle on them. The last one had more space, it was better organized. Like they've kind of gotten into a groove now. On top of that, we do know that they're under the same umbrella. So for them to include one of their other brands, even if it only takes up a quarter of the convention, still kind of makes sense to do, right? You're already there. You already have a lot of your staff and people there. You might as well. Like, why not? And then on top of that, we have the universes beyond element, right? Like, we know Final Fantasy's coming. Wouldn't it be cool if you're a Final Fantasy fan, you go up and meet some of the voice actors of your favorite characters or your favorite Japanese artists that have done some of your favorite Final Fantasy stuff? Or let's say we get to September, I guess it is, October, when we're supposed to be in Atlanta and Spider-Man's already out, and you can go up and get Spider-Man stuff signed by Todd McFarlane. Or maybe, I don't know, some of your other favorite 90s comic stuff because they managed to get Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld or whatever. That would be a draw for the convention. Now, does the argument become that it starts to become more of just a Magic convention and more of a general convention? Kind of, sort of, but they're still there in relation to Magic, because it exists, or D&D, I guess, as it were, but still Wizard of the Coast brands. So yeah, I don't have a problem with this, dude. I don't know if it makes sense or bothers you or not, but to me, this feels just like the normal evolution of the MagicCons.
I mean, I'm kind of apathetic about Universes Beyond, but if it's going to be here, then yeah, this is the way
Yeah,
it's going to go. Obviously, their goal is, San Diego Comic Con is the thing you're reaching for. So if you got a shot to do that, I guess that's what this is. To see if they got a shot to be like San Diego Comic Con.
yeah. I don't know if we can get that big. Like that's
Or
because
not necessarily that big, because it will always, I guess, in theory, be tied to Magic. So Magic will hit a ceiling at some point.
yeah,
But
because San Diego Comic Con I think is still like 100,000 people or something, like some
yeah.
big old number. And Gen Con's pretty big, but you're also talking about hell, 500 different game licenses under one roof or whatever for 5 days.
Well,
So
I wonder how many BlizzCon does, because I know BlizzCon is getting pretty
that
big.
is a good question. Let me do a quick check for BlizzCon attendance, huh? Because I know Gen Con is around like 70, 75,000. Says BlizzCon in 2018 is the latest numbers that come up. Says they did 40,000 people, which is a pretty big number, honestly. That's
Yeah.
kind of impressive. Because when we
Well, I
consider, like I
mean,
said, Gen Con does 70, 75,000, like they're basically half that, which is pretty cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, you can figure two of the biggest game brands in the world, Overwatch and World of Warcraft. It figures.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. Could we get to 40,000? Like,
And like
I
you said,
mean,
if you start getting Spider-Man people in
yeah, if
there,
we
it
do that
certainly is
for sure.
possible.
Because I believe the numbers I'm hearing from Vegas were between 16 and 17,000.
You
So
figure
you're,
Dungeons and Dragons by itself has the potential to add another several thousand
yeah, I
easily.
was mad. You can get another 3 or 4,000 out of that, right? So you can
Yeah.
say 20K. So it's like maybe somewhere around 30K could be a real number in a year or two.
You can maybe get the Critical Role. People don't know. I don't know if they'd invite them now because they're doing their own role
Sure.
playing game. But let's say a couple of
But
years down the line, if they're not doing that, that might be possible.
totally with you. As I'm saying, there's some draws like that that could be worth a lot of attendees. That's why I'm like, you know, 20,000 totally doable. 30,000 might might take another year and a half, 2 years, but like 30,000 is achievable, I think, with that plan. So yeah, and I'm with you. Like, kind of don't care one way or the other about Universes Beyond. It exists or it doesn't, whatever. But if you're gonna do it, you might as well get the most out of it. And this is one of those ways to do it. So yeah, introducing D&D I think makes the most sense because again, same company, all the staff knows each other, whatever. Just sure, might as well do it. After that, we'll see where it goes. But yeah, not really anything I think is a bad thing. It's cool because you're probably, I mean, could you do your individual like Dungeons and Dragons convention? Like probably, but it'd be a lot harder to pull off, especially since you're already paying for the venue and the staffing and whatever to just do the Magic one. It's just like, all right, if we think all we were going to get out of D&D is somewhere between, let's say, 5 and 10,000 people, then yeah, might as well just have it be an attachment to MagicCons and just rent extra space, and save yourself the effort. But all right, let's see what you got.
Yeah, as I'm sure you've heard, noted YouTuber Jake Paul fought former boxer Mike Tyson on Netflix, and I mean, this isn't a rant about YouTubers boxing and how ridiculous it's become, because that's just where boxing is. The true L here was taken by Netflix because the stream was pretty much unwatchable. Me and most of the people that saw the fight had to end up watching it on TikTok. Somebody, streaming it off of something else on the TikTok is how I saw. And yeah, the fight was terrible. I think it was probably always going to be terrible because it's a YouTuber fighting a 60-year-old man who almost died a couple of months ago. But yeah, you got 2 football games coming on Netflix on Christmas Day, I believe. That's frightened about that. As you wrestling fans probably know, Monday Night Raw comes to Netflix in January, and that's going to be every week for the foreseeable future. So man, Triple H and WWE were looking at that, and we're very, very nervous about it, because whatever problems you had with SmackDown or you had with USA or Fox, hey, the signal from Fox Cable or USA is coming into your house flawlessly, provided you paid your cable bill. This is, the danger of streaming. I remember when we finally cut the cable, like, hey, if you don't have really good internet, you might still not be able to watch things. You really, and we're like, whatever. It's too much. We stream everything, but man, I couldn't help but think about their words as I attempted to stream this fight, and then end up, with my 55-inch TV, end up having to use my significantly smaller than 55-inch cell phone to try to end up watching the fight. Just
Man, here's the thing that makes this rough too, because it's been reported that Netflix tried to make all these adjustments or want stuff different with the NFL, and then tried to go to the WWE and say, oh, but we want this superstar, this person on our show on Raw or whatever. And then your product may not even work. You know what I mean? Like, you're out here trying to make demands, and you can't even prove that your streaming service works when a reasonable number of people are trying to watch a thing. Like, that's rough. That's rough.
That's the downside of a streaming future. Because again, I gave cable grief. It did get too expensive, especially in comparison to what you're paying for streaming. But man, yeah, my cable again. Long as the bill got paid, cable came into the house, and there really weren't any problems. This is a bad experience. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep, signal over coax still works,
right? This was just, although a couple of people, got to, I think Antonio Brown had a stream that apparently blew. A couple of people really established themselves by streaming this on TikTok or whatever social media they were on.
Oh no, that honestly, that was the smart move. If you were checking your phone and realized there was an issue, guarantee you, if you were one of the people streaming it, you probably got all types of bits and rewards or whatever. People were just probably throwing you $5 here or there just for having it up so they could watch it. So I ain't even mad on people to being enterprising, because what's Netflix going to go back and complain about? Like, you showed a thing that they couldn't show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's either that or nobody gets to watch it at all. So whatever.
It was a problem you created. Hopefully they're busy working on figuring out, and as we'll address this again after the Christmas Day games. That's going to be the next opportunity where you figure couple of 100 million people easily are trying to watch Netflix on Christmas.
Now, I will say this. Did you see at least the meme videos that came out?
Oh, yeah. The memes were great.
Where people were showing, like, this is what the NFL games are going to look like. And they're, like, glitching out, or, like, they're skipping.
05 or something.
Yeah, I was like.
Or Tecmo Bowl.
So, people have to just be so tight around Netflix, seeing those going around for, like, 3-4 days afterwards. Like,
people were already making the jokes about Raw, talking about, I can't wait for this in January. It's like buffering. Are you still watching Monday Night Raw in the middle of
Yeah, exactly.
Because it isn't that whether you're watching, it's literally if you haven't pushed the button or taken an action of some kind, you get that, are you still watching?
Yeah, and Raw is going to be 3 hours, so you know
Yeah,
you're going to get the
you
button, right?
if somebody cut the 40-minute promo, you'll have it'll be coming up every 10 minutes. Which it's Raw. We're gonna have 30-minute promos. That's the thing that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough time for Netflix, but we'll keep an eye on things and see how it works out. But let's go ahead and get in what did we learn this week? Because there's a couple of interesting things. One a little more surprising than the other. So why don't you tell us what you've got, dude?
Yeah, the Game Awards listed their nominees for pretty much all the awards, and Game of the Year, as always, draw a lot of attention. This one feels. We talked about it last year and how incredible it was. This one feels not like that. Although Black Myth Wukong, which we talked about earlier, for the Chinese government putting a disclaimer like, "Hey, don't talk about the politics," it's nominated for Game of the Year. So literally, had the Chinese government just shut up, there'd have been nothing but positive publicity surrounding this game. They
Oh
made a
yeah,
problem where there wasn't a problem. Although I do have to mention, it is apparently the lowest rated game ever to be nominated for Game of the Year. This is just that's what happens after you have a really banger year. Sometimes the next year is just Also, Elden Ring, but it's called Shadow of the Erd Tree is a DLC, and it's kind of controversial because Elden Ring, as you probably remember, came out last year. This is DLC for Elden Ring, so people are wondering, wait, can
yeah. That
DLC?
shouldn't qualify. Like that doesn't. Like,
I
come
mean,
on.
if the DLC is really good, I guess maybe. Of course, the next problem is, let's say they're still putting out DLC 5 years from now. It's gonna suck for you if you made a game in 2027 that's really good, and you're still competing against the game of the year from 4 years ago. That's gonna be a little weird.
Yeah,
But
that's weird. That's like. I mean, I guess it's their awards; they get to make the rules. But that one bugs me a little bit.
that's if that's the case, is Skyrim still up?
Well,
Because
yeah,
we
that's what I'm
need to
saying.
start
I like
comparing games.
like if Larian on the last day of their contract goes like, "Hey, here's this cool new extra section of map for Baldur's Gate 3." Does that count? Knowing everybody's gonna like it,
We've already set the
you know?
precedent. Apparently,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's just weird. Like I don't know. I don't know.
once you've you can't unring the bells. And one of the things, there's going to be a bunch of people complaining about getting snubbed. They're always at any award. I'm really ticked that College Football 25 didn't get nominated for. I knew I'm going to get Game of the Year because sports games generally don't do that, even when they probably should be nominated. Because looking back years ago, NBA Jam was probably the best game of the year, or at least worthy of nomination. I don't remember what year it was, but NBA Jam, especially cultural footprint. How many games from that year, let's say 20 or 30 years ago, are you still playing? Probably just NBA Jam,
Dude, I'm telling you, NBA Jam and NFL Blitz,
right?
like those literally have me in a chokehold if I walk by one of those cabinets.
Yeah.
Like,
But College Football 25 didn't even get nominated for Sports Game of the Year. Like, how in the world is that possible? There was no
yeah,
sports game that had a bigger economic. It's while it may not be Game of the Year, it's the best selling game of the year. And this isn't, the Oscars. We're not just. I know to some extent, yeah, we're saying quality matter, but again, how does the best selling game of the year in all across all genres, by the way, not just sports, it is the best selling game. By the way, I think the number 3 or 4 best selling game is the MVP bundle, which is you pay one price, you get Madden and EA. Because it's 2 out of the top 5 best selling games of the year, and yet it didn't get nominated for best sports game. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. Come
there
on,
are
now.
some wild ones on the list though. First off, I hate the fact that like best game direction and game of the year are basically always the same 5 games or whatever that is
Yeah.
nominated for both categories. I think
Like
that's stupid.
it's like at the Oscars where best actor, best director often end up being the same.
Yeah, it's
Best
like
film.
okay, but Balatro or Balatro is basically like a almost the way to describe it is like a rogue like card based game with like the 52 card deck of cards or
It's
whatever.
like a
And
roguelike poker game, basically.
yeah, it's weird. And that's actually nominated as a game of the year, which surprised me.
Well, I think it's the highest rated game on the list. It has a
Yeah.
90 overall Metacritic. I haven't played it yet. I'm going to at some point because, I try to at least eventually get around all the stuff nominated for Game of the Year. So in
So yeah,
terms of
that
ratings,
one
it's
shocked me.
untouchable.
Yeah,
It
that one
shocked a
shocked
lot
me.
of people. But
Cause
again,
like I've known about it for months, but I was
really,
just like, okay, this seems like a cool time waster on your phone or whatever. I didn't even think people would have thought it was a Game of the Year nominee. Like, that's crazy, but cool if
But
they
I mean,
win it.
it is by far the highest reviewed game on that list. 'Cause I think it's when talking about Black Myth Wukong. I think it's somewhere around in the 80s, which again isn't considered bad. But when you talk about Game of the Year, yeah, wow.
To be
By the way,
fair, some of those too, you never know with all the politics and stuff what could have affected people's ratings or something too. But
but
yeah, I'm going down the
usually once you get to like 90 or 100, you have a pretty good idea of where that game ranks.
yeah, you would think so. But I'm just going through the list here and like most of the games on the list are what you would expect to be there. You know, like Silent Hill 2 got nominated for a couple things, Final Fantasy
Yeah.
7 for a bunch of stuff.
And again, that's crazy because it's kind of like almost like Elden Ring. It's a remake of Final Fantasy, and it's
Yeah.
as I
Yeah,
said, it feels like a down year a little bit
but
for these nominations.
you know what though, to be fair, we've talked about it on this show. The last 3-4 years in a row feel like it was just hitter, you know, as Seamus would say, banger after banger after banger.
Yeah,
Like to the point that you couldn't even keep up with or try all of the best games because there were so many, right?
right.
So at some point it had to give hell, just the studios weren't gonna be able to keep afford doing that, honestly, if your games are getting overlooked. But yeah, you know, Destiny 2 is up there. Diablo 4 got a couple of nominations. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 got a couple.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, mostly what you would expect. No real, as far as what's on the list, none of them felt egregious, except for maybe the Elden Ring thing, but you know, whatever.
What
But
one?
I think you're right though. A couple of snubs is the real issue.
And of course, the absolute feels bad man awards got to go to Ubisoft. They have two of the, I believe, five nominees for Action Adventure Game of the Year with Star Wars Outlaws and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. And if we're to believe the reports, Ubisoft is teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. So that's just like we've talked about. Putting out good games does not mean you necessarily can sell good games. So
But you know, I equate this to movies though, right? In the sense that you can have a movie that's well acted. You can
yeah,
have a movie that has the best script, director, whatever. But if it's like a drama, people aren't excited to go to the box office for that.
yeah. Transformers, whatever the Transformers Prime new daddy is going to make
Exactly.
more money. It's just
Yeah, people are going to be more excited to go see that, right? And I get it because I'm the same way. Like, No Country for Old Men, good movie, but I wasn't going to go to the box office and pay to watch it.
yeah, because you
But
don't need to really go to IMAX to see. Ooh, look how much he's acting.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like,
IMAX is for stuff like Endgame, Star Wars, Fast and the Furious. Look, where you're gonna just overwhelm me with sights and sounds and things.
but also, like you said earlier, right? We've got these 55 and 60-inch TVs at home now, all
Also,
in either
that
high def or 4K or hell
yeah,
now 8K or whatever. I don't need to go to a movie theater for that type of movie. If I go now, it's because you've got the awesome surround sound and rumbling and all this other stuff that like adds to the experience that I ain't getting at home. You know?
all you need to know about entertainment in 2024 is that the Dallas Cowboys have a multi-billion-dollar stadium that also has the world's largest TV in it. Like, so you can watch the game on the TV while you're at the game. That you like the me like, hey, we put the Cowboy game in your Cowboy game, so you can Cowboy. You're like, can you not see the
You know the
game
crazy thing
from
that
where you
people don't
are?
know is you can actually go to the stadium and still rent that TV to play video games on. That is an actual thing you could do at Dallas Cowboy Stadium.
Yeah, because I saw somewhere like you could play Madden against Micah Parsons or
Yeah.
something.
Which, to be honest, if you can tell me I get to go play on a TV that goes from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, that's kind of
Yeah,
cool to do at least one time.
yeah, especially against one of the Cowboys. Well, the way the season's going, you destroyed them, I guess.
Hey, Micah Parsons might be able to win a game. You know, just saying.
Right?
All right.
He's a fan. He's allowed to do that, y'all.
That's true. It's true. I am a fan, sadly, born and bred. Okay, so I mentioned how people are moving over to Blue Sky last week, especially like big chunks of the Magic community over there. Like, honestly, if you're a Magic fan and even to some extent a D&D fan, like a lot of that community's moved over. So you're probably missing some of the discussions or whatever if you're not over there because there's a lot happening right now. And honestly, it just works better than Twitter right now, which is sad. But there's so many people moving over that I was looking up numbers. Bluesky has gone from 9 million in September to 15 million users today. That's a huge jump for just what, a month and a half difference? Like, that's crazy. They're saying in the last week they gained 1 million subscribers. So you talk about momentum. Remember how we're saying like people keep talking about these other platforms or whatever? We've not seen one get this level of momentum in a long time. So this might be at least a competitor. I don't know if it's going to be a replacement for Twitter for a while, because I think like a lot of institutional level things, you got to have a couple years sometimes for the whole thing to come crumbling down. So I think it'll be a long time before it actually replaces Twitter, but it becomes a reasonable competitor now when you're talking about 1 million users a week that are starting to come in there. So I'm just putting it on people's radar. If you got community over there, if you haven't went it, at least lock down your ID. You know, you might want to go get your username just in case, you know, for the future. Make sure you got stuff all squared away, because this could end up being one of those real platforms people. Because remember, people didn't think Twitter was going to be a thing either when
Yeah.
it started. It was small and grew. So this could very well be the same thing. And even if it's not Twitter level, don't forget that there's still stuff people are using out here like Whatnot and Threads and all this other stuff
Yeah.
that aren't Twitter level, but still get a lot of activity and a lot of business on them.
There's a battle royal going on social media right now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think a lot of it is, you know, the policies that have been changed on Twitter have chased people off. You know, between, well, you know, people you've blocked to still be able to see your stuff, but you won't be able to interact with them. Right? Oh, well, we're going to start using all of your post and art to feed our Grok AI. And like a lot of that stuff starting to not sit well with people. You know, it's just like every week there's a new thing, and it's like, you know what? I'm out. They actually saw in the last couple of weeks their largest drop for a month of users, even. So people aren't just going over and using some of these other account or sites
Yeah.
like Blue Sky. They're just outright leaving Twitter, like shutting down their accounts, which is wild. Which, by the way, if you shut down your account on Twitter, you have to manually go in and shut things off before closing it, because otherwise they could still use your account, right? Because you didn't close down everything. And if you come back, it's still active. The other thing is, from what I understand, is even if you do close your account, if you come back in within 30 days, it basically resets your account and you're still good to go. So you have to close it out and not visit Twitter at all. So just saying, that's a thing. Yeah, just go get your Blue Sky accounts, because it's at least going to be a thing for a while. How long that while is, I don't know.
Yeah, because I did see Disney and a bunch of the companies to the left have come back to Twitter. So I guess they're just kind of waiting to see kind of how the election shook out as to
Mm-hmm.
which thing they wanted to roll with. So Disney, Coke, and 5 or 6 other high profile companies that have come back now.
Yeah, and there's still companies on multiple platforms too, right? And you got to do business
Yeah.
at the end of the day, whether you like it or not. If there's still whatever, you know, 50 million people on Twitter or whatever, well, you still gotta kowtow to those people over on Twitter. That's just the way it is. Like, human currency is there. You got to get your advertising in where you can to promote to those people. But all right, let's talk about a few quick topics here. I can finally talk about Arena Championship 7. Those dates got announced. So if you want to check that action out, it's going to be December 14th and 15th. No limited play. It's going to be straight standard for all of the rounds on Saturday and Sunday, which, you know, people like watching more actual constructed footage anyway, so that's fine. Top 16, though, will be invited to the Pro Tour, which is pretty sweet. And the top 2 players actually get qualified for the World Championships. So kind of cool that if you've been playing Arena and you just couldn't get out to one of these big events or whatever, well, there's still a chance to qualify for both the Pro Tour and Worlds, which is super sweet. And, you know, big prize pool, all that stuff. And at least as of last notification, yours truly will be one of the commentators that weekend. So should be pretty good. Now, here's a fun story, an interesting story. I don't want to say fun because I've been in this person's spot, so like it ain't fun. But an Idaho game store is having to go after 3 UPS employees who may have stolen estimated $25,000 worth of product from them.
Jesus.
Yeah, so this is no small change. Now, the best I could find on this story.
Were those the guys that were that robbed Gen Con? Did they go to UPS and get
No,
hired?
those guys actually got found and arrested. So,
Okay.
so we know it's not them at least. But supposedly, the way this goes down, they had a package go missing, lost or untrackable, whatever the case is, which happens. That could be a legit thing. So, all right, says fine. They reorder their stuff, get all the things, get it all squared away with their distributor. Then it happens again. Though this time says, well, the package was damaged, had to do with some liquid and blah, blah, blah. But the owner was a little suspicious because he says, well, everything in that box should have been shrink wrapped anyway. So even if some liquid got to it from another package, the product should still be fine. The box would just be in bad shape, right? So it still should have been delivered. And then has a third package go missing. It sounds like about a month or two later. And, similar issue. There was damages, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, this is weird. Because, you go through a stretch and you might have one package get lost in a long stretch of time, especially a big package. It's like multiple boxes sometimes, multiple or big order with multiple boxes. So you're like, that's not too common to have happen, but whatever. But when it happens 3 times, you start going, okay, hold up. Well, as it turns out, which does happen a lot when you have a game store, a lot of people in the community. Turns out one of his customers is a UPS employee.
Ruh-roh.
And there was apparently they're going back and forth with a joking conversation of just like, man, I don't know what's going on, but y'all keep losing a lot of my packages. And the dude's like, what? And he's explaining the situation to him. And the employee says, I'm going to be real with you. There's a chance these are stolen. And here's why. And explains to him the process and the likelihood of things happening or stuff not turning up. And it apparently is always from the same distributor, right? So it's somebody who knows where product is coming from for this particular store at this point.
Yeah.
The other thing too, what people don't know is some distributors also still put the invoices on the outside of the boxes. So there's like a plastic seal thing they stick on there and then your invoice is inside. So if somebody wanted to tear one of those open to find out what was in it because they were suspicious that it might be magic cards and they were a collector or hobbyist of some kind, they would be able to tell what's inside the package without opening it. So depending on what distributor and whatever it comes from. If it's one of those particular ones, well, then they know, and now they're intercepting packages. So now they're doing a follow-up, and yeah, it sounds like they know the 3 delivery people, and it's going to be a problem for some folks. Yeah.
However much money you made off of that was not more than you made your yearly salary at UPS. That was dumb.
No, don't be wrong. UPS workers work hard, but they do get paid pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, reading through these different reports, it sounds like one of the people may have also had a history of some other issues as well. So
doesn't UPS do background checks?
You would think so. I mean, maybe he already.
You would figure if there's one job where you would want to make sure people were above reproach, because yeah, if you're a crook and you just decide to go crooked for a month on a UPS truck, yeah, you could make more than what you'd make in a year. Which is why you do background checks.
I will say, if they were already hired, they probably wouldn't know some of their private stuff that went on. But here's the kicker. Once the county sheriffs, because, they had to start investigating it, looked into it, talked to the UPS folks. Apparently, a UPS supervisor, it says here, was already investigating 2 employees, which they have identified as Jerry Hodges and John Forsyth, because they were suspected of stealing items from the facility. So they were already under investigation from UPS themselves. So yeah, and it turns out one of them, Hodges, works in the department where damaged items get processed and repackaged. Go figure. So there's a very good likelihood that these dudes stole this stuff.
And now their names are out there. See, in theory, they work in the industry again. In theory, because like you said, if somebody had a history and still got here.
Yeah, it says a security supervisor described a specific incident where Hodges reportedly took a package addressed to his relative, opened it, repackaged it in a larger box with a stolen Lord of the Rings disc, blah, 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 that came from Holiday Fun and Game Shipment, that they're pretty sure. So, yeah, apparently UPS was already onto these guys anyway. Now they have something else to tie to them.
Yeah.
So these guys are done.
People out here ending their whole careers for Magic cards. Good Lord.
Well, honestly, it was probably a lot of stuff because there was Lord of the Rings stuff. There was probably Warhammer stuff. There's, D&D stuff. Just why? Why would you do that? Like, even if you split, let's say you could get full retail somehow, which we know is difficult if you're reselling stuff, or whatever.
Yeah.
But let's say you even got full retail and you split that between 3 dudes. That's not that much in the grand scheme of things.
And nobody's paying full retail if they know it fell off a truck, or else you just go to the store and buy it.
So what's the most you're getting each? Like 4 to 5K? You can't be the fence
and sell it for the same thing the store sold it for.
That's what I'm saying, right? You get 4 to 5K a piece. Is that worth it? Between not just your job, but now potentially going to jail.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not just losing your job. That's the problem. Now you're going to have felony stuff on your record.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay off these fines and restitution. Like,
you can't do anything where you'll be anywhere near money, which just cuts whole swaths of jobs off of the resume.
Yeah, it's just bad, man. Like, I don't know. Like, that's
if there's one thing I learned is being a police reporter, it's that master criminals only usually exist in TV and movies. Most criminals tend to be idiots.
I've said that for years. I think there are master criminals, but they're not greedy enough. They get one big thing and then they probably don't do anything else for years. The problem is you get these types of people who they got away with it once, and they're like, it's about time for this big Warhammer, Magic, whatever release. We know they're going to be getting some. Let's get that next package from this place, right?
And again, you can quickly probably pinpoint who at a job like UPS even knows what a Magic card is and how much it's worth.
Oh, yeah. But apparently these guys have a history of it. Like it said, they were already being investigated for some shady stuff beforehand. So
in this era of Ring doorbells and everything having a digital footprint, it's just not worth it.
Oh, security cameras. Hell, they have trackers on the truck so they know what part of town you're in. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Ruining your whole life for, like you said, $1,000 maybe.
And not just that. I've been in that struggle, man. It's a small business. Like them, even though they can get reimbursed for that product, right? Whether it's through UPS paying for it, through their insurance thing, or their distributor paying for it to give them a new product, whatever. Like them not having product, which if it's those big numbers, it was probably their release day product on at least multiple products. If it was, that means they weren't able to make money at the best time for them to make money for each one of those packages that was missing. And then, having to wait days to get it reimbursed or whatever. And then you probably had regulars who didn't buy something because they knew yours were coming in. So they pre-ordered through you and now you don't have it. And they've got to wait an extra 3 or 4 days. Like, there's a whole thing that goes there. So you screwed over somebody's mom and pop business on top of it. It's like, man,
and lost your job.
Yeah. Lost their job, gonna go to jail. Like,
what did it cost you? Everything.
Literally everything. Like, ugh. Anyway, and some other interesting news. Chris Cox apparently did an interview recently where he mentioned there were more D&D and Magic video games coming, but we seemingly got no details. So
I mean, I think we always knew more games were coming. Probably will they be any good, because most of them haven't been.
Yeah, I think in the Magic front, it's going to be more like mobile stuff, match 3 type games, whatever. Like, those are going to continue to exist, and I don't think that's a big deal. We kind of know. People are going to license it out, do their thing. It's whatever. The D&D one's a little more interesting because we've talked about it before, right? Knowing that Larian's contract is ending with Wizards, what does the next thing look like? Because Baldur's Gate 3... Now, don't be wrong. The previous Baldur's Gates were fine. Like, they were fun. They were playable. People have good memories of them. But Baldur's Gate 3 raised the game entirely for role-playing games. So not even just D&D, the next D&D
Yeah, I was gonna
RPG.
say it wasn't just a good Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yeah,
It was a good, one of the best games of the year.
that's what I'm saying. Like, what are the next
And looking for
RPGs?
these nominations, it's one of the best games of the past 2 years.
Yeah, probably. But like, what does an RPG even have to look like in the future to be, hell, let's say even 80% of a Baldur's Gate 3? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, the
And
big one that came out this year was Dragon Age Veilguard. It probably was under the wire for nomination. We'll see what it does next year.
yeah, I did hear some positive things about that one. But yeah, I don't even know, because I've thought about this pretty heavily. Because if you look at Baldur's Gate 3, they spent a lot of effort, just like, you can stand off a cliff and just look at the scenery that they put
Yeah,
all this detail into, right? Like, whatever it is, nearly 200 hours of just dialogue they recorded, which if you play through the game with any character, you won't even hear half the dialogue,
right.
right? Because some of it's character or class specific or anything else. So, like, just the consideration to detail on so much stuff, or even like, hey, you could take this item, and hell, there's a point in there where you're supposed to get a Githyanki egg, and there's this person you encounter who wants to take it because, I don't know, they want to research them or something. We coincidentally did something different at the beginning, because you encounter this owlbear, and for whatever reason, we didn't end up saving like the owlbear cub or whatever, but we kept an owlbear egg and we just had it in inventory. So we were able to give that egg to the character, and there was dialogue for that. Like, oh, well, this doesn't look like a normal Githyanki egg or whatever. And then you had all these choices to try to like convince her that it was actually what it's supposed to be or whatever. And I'm like, who even has this much stuff already predetermined? You know what I mean? Like,
Man,
that level of detail, I don't know if we're gonna get that in another game in a while. Like,
everything
I
exists.
yeah, it's so good. So yeah, I don't know. D&D, whoever gets to make the next D&D game, you may be set up for failure.
What we're seeing in just every aspect of gaming, the voice work, for example, Multiverse has just dropped. I think Raven, as I believe I mentioned last week,
Mm.
and for those of you that are really into cartoons, Tara Strong is the voice actress for like half of the people in Multiverses, and she has lines where she'll like roast her own. Like, there, one of the things where Raven is fighting Harley, and again, both are voiced by Tara Strong. And Raven has a line where she says, you know what I hate most about Harley is her dumb, high pitched voice. It's just things like that. I mean,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have got that in a fighting game probably 10 years ago,
That's what
or
I'm
any game.
saying. Like, the bar is so, and I've had this discussion in the past with people that we are very lucky. Like, in our generation, we have grown up, and I feel like we've seen the best of everything. Like, we've seen the highest grossing movies. We've seen the
Yeah,
best golfer, basketball player, boxer, whatever in the world, right? Like, we've seen the best video games, the fastest track runners. Like, so like, our scale of what's even good is continually just broken now. Right? Because things come out now that are actually good, and people are, guarantee you, the next RPG that's really good, people are gonna go, yeah, but it's not Baldur's Gate 3. And it's like, you're comparing it to an all-time great. Like, it still might be good in its own right. That's like people going like, LeBron ain't crap because he's not Michael Jordan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really though? Right? Like, there's no room for real adjustment here. Like, come on. That's sort of what I think we're gonna run into, because Baldur's Gate 3
yeah.
was just insane. And I
That's
feel bad.
We are in the era of the hot take, or whatever the next. Let's say the Spider-Man set does huge numbers. It'll still not as good as Lord of the Rings, and who's to say? But
Yeah. I mean, somebody's gonna say it down the road,
yeah,
you know. Well, Final Fantasy was great, but it didn't pull Lord of the Ring numbers, even though it might still be like 90%. You know,
yeah.
right? Like,
Or
somebody
even if it
still,
pulls the same numbers, but it still wasn't as good though. Legolas was the damn bomb.
yeah, exactly.
Cloud's card just isn't as good.
There's always gonna be somebody. So it's like,
Cloud is way prettier than Legolas, just or whatever.
some people might actually feel that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things. It was a story that's a non-story though, right? Like, yeah, we know more Magic and D&D stuff is coming. No surprise. But I think it
Yeah, I
was
don't think
more,
anybody doubted it was coming. We're concerned about the quality.
yeah, I think it's
It's
more
always
of
the thing.
him saying, I kind of read between the lines of, we either have or are negotiating to get the next couple done.
Yeah.
Either contracts are done or we have plans to get them done, but couldn't really tell us anything. And that's fine. So kind of keep your eye on this spot. We'll come back to this, you know.
Whoever is, whoever's doing that D&D, they're gonna feel like Sadale Threet, which you don't know is the poor guy that had to play point guard for the Lakers after Magic had HIV and had to retire. That's what the next Dungeons and Dragons game is gonna feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be compared to that, which is crazy because and honestly, I'm not even saying this just to be, a little hyperbolic, but like if you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, even if you don't like RPGs,
Right.
give it at least 20 hours and you'd be amazed how much stuff is in that game. Like even if you don't finish it.
And you pretty much, I think if you don't play RPGs, and people aren't going to be able to tell you, just give it 20 hours. Because nobody, if you play Madden or you play Call of Duty, they ain't giving it 20 hours.
No, 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 no. But I'm saying like to just go through an experience like all these different interactions and things you will question things of like, well, let me go try to take this. And you're like, oh, that person's upset now or whatever, or
Yeah.
this person doesn't like me because I disagreed with this thing. And you're just like, everything you do has an action or a reaction to it or whatever, which is amazing in that
Which
game.
is what I want out of an RPG. I want to, to have the narrative at the end, like, oh, it's a shame you weren't able to save this person, because now this entire village got burned to the ground. You just feel
Yeah,
like,
and it never feels like anything like there is definitely a loose story on rails, but you can go like 10 different ways to get to the same ending, right? Which is actually pretty because even throughout it, and I'm not going to spoil it for people who are going to play it, but like you can choose like, well, we want to side with this person because there's a bunch of like infighting between like different good guys and bad guys, and you kind of have to pick some sides on who you want to help or not, and you're not even sure who the good guys or the bad guys are. So with the group I'm
yep.
playing with, we've had this discussion of, all right, we're gonna side with this person, but if we get to this moment and this person seems shady, we might have to kill him. You know what I mean? Like we already had
Right?
that thought of just like we might have chosen poorly, so we got
Yeah.
to give ourselves an out just in case.
I mean, that's a great story at that point. And that's how real life is. Sometimes you don't always know who the shady person
Yeah.
is until they make that decision. Like, oh wait, no, you can't F with you no more. What
Oh
are you
yeah.
talking about?
There's a lot of decisions throughout the game, so I hope it at least pushes the standard up higher. So even if other games aren't Baldur's Gate 3, we
Yeah.
at least get a continued series of fun interactive products.
Like you say cola instead of pop, you gotta go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Well, all right. Let's wrap this up with an interesting question because I've been thinking about this throughout the show about how I'm going to answer this.
oh
But
God, I have not. I didn't think we were getting here with everything we had.
but is there a game or product that changed how you think about or see one of your hobbies? And man, that was a tough one, you know, because like part of me says the existence of the pro tour
Yeah, it's
like
pretty
kind
cool.
of made me think because before then we'd played a bunch of games and
Yeah,
there'd been like a tournament every once in a while or something you'd hear about like the Nintendo championships or something, but not really a thing where like, oh, this is going to be like a regular thing you can do like 3 or 4 times a year. And there was Grand Prix and whatever, and that sort of changed things a bit.
yeah,
But then I think about like board games and games like Catan or Ticket to Ride that sort of changed what I think of a board game, as opposed to just like Monopoly or sorry, like the roll and go games.
yeah,
So like probably something in one of those spaces I would say is the closest thing for me. Because other things are like I have as far as hobbies like sports card collecting, disc
yeah,
golf, but like I don't think there was anything in those spaces that changed how I thought about the product or the hobby, right? Those other two though, I think those are distinct things that changed the way I thought about what those products are and what they could be capable of. But I don't know, dude. Do you have anything like that as far as like I don't know, the video game that changed your life or
Oh, I
you
think
know?
definitely. I guess I want to say it was FIFA 15 where they first introduced Ultimate Team, and at the time I don't think any
Mm,
of us even realized that that really was going to become the dominant thing in pretty much every sports game that would come to market. They're just, yeah, it's cute. We're collecting cards because I love collecting cards. Like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I don't think anybody had any idea that it would be just, it's the driver. It's what
yeah.
causes all the, they just dropped a card pack in Madden. No lie. The pack, a single pack of Ultimate Team cards is $100. That's more than the game cost, unless you bought the special edition, which I did because I do content. But yeah, the game itself only costs 70. This is one pack of cards. If you don't even play one, imagine $100 just on one game mode because everybody doesn't play much, but the people
Yeah.
that do drive it to billions of dollars in profit. And as I said, that was even when it entered Madden, I still hadn't realized. Oh wait, yeah, this is how it is now. Every year we're gonna do this to the point where, oh, by the way, what else is in the game? Because when every year when I write about what's new, the list of what's new in Mutt feels like it's
Yeah.
always just way longer. At the end of the day, more important than everything else that happened.
That's a good call out because DLC really is the way of the future for
Yeah,
video game companies, whether we like it or not. Like, that's a way they can keep people employed, keep people programming, keep the revenue rolling in. So,
it
like, it
keeps you
makes
playing the
sense.
entire year.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. That's pretty good, dude. Like I said, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. That definitely changed the face of, at least if nothing else, sports video games, but DLC in general, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's people where their whole decision to even make a sports game is like, hey, what can we, what kind of my team mode can we come up with?
Uh huh.
WWE has a my team mode now, which you're like, for real? But it's where I think we're in year 2 or 3 of it, so they must be making money off of it.
That's exactly it. People keep buying it.
Yeah.
You know what we say right here. Like, if you keep
You keep
buying
on.
it, they're gonna
Yep.
keep making it. Like, it's just the way it is. Well, all right, dude. One tour where they can find you on the social media machines.
Oh goodness, I am Brian Sonic on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can read my writing over at App Trigger. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on now. We start on Pokemon Pocket if you've
Yep.
got into any of that crack.
And you can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn, even over at the Blue Sky, which we have a lot of stuff going on there as well. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome, and most importantly, be awesome to each other.